You've felt it before. That quiet pull away from something that looked completely fine on the surface. A job offer that ticked every box and still made your stomach turn. A relationship that looked perfect to everyone watching, including you, and still left you hollow at 2 a.m. A door that kept not opening no matter how hard you pushed, no matter how aligned you thought you were. And you did what most people do. You overrode it. You told yourself it was fear. You told yourself your resistance was the problem. You visualized harder. You affirmed louder. You cleared the block, shifted the belief, and walked through the door anyway. And then you found out why it was closed. What if the thing you've been calling resistance, the hesitation, the inexplicable unease, the quiet feeling that something is off, isn't blocking you at all? What if that feeling is the most sophisticated guidance system you've ever been given, and no one told you how to read it? Bashar teaches that your guides do not communicate the way you were taught to expect. And once you understand how they actually reach you, not through dramatic signs or synchronicities alone, but through the language of your own body, your own felt sense, your own frequency, you will never override yourself again. If this is already landing for you, you found this for a reason. This channel exists for the people who've done the work, who trust the framework, and who are ready to go one layer deeper. Hit subscribe. We go deep here, and we do it together. Here is what most teachings in this space get wrong about guidance. They frame it as external. They tell you to look for angel numbers, repeated songs, feathers on your path, strangers saying the right thing at the right moment. And yes, those things are real. Those things happen. But if your entire orientation toward guidance is outward, you will miss the vast majority of what your guides are actually sending you. Because your guides don't primarily communicate through the world around you. They communicate through you, through the instrument that you are. Think about how a tuning fork works. When you strike a tuning fork and hold it near another fork of the same frequency, the second fork begins to vibrate, without being touched. It resonates, it responds. Not because something external forced it, but because frequency is contagious at the right proximity. Your body is a tuning fork. Your felt sense, that wordless knowing in your chest, your gut, the back of your throat, is constantly vibrating in response to frequencies you haven't consciously registered yet. Your guides operate at a high frequency. When they are near a truth, they want you to feel. When they are near a warning they need you to receive, they create resonance. And your body rings. Think about it this way. Have you ever walked into a room and felt something shift before anyone said a word? Before you could explain it intellectually, something in you already knew the temperature of that space. You weren't reading minds. You weren't being paranoid. You were receiving. Your tuning fork was responding to the frequency of what was actually present, not what was being performed. This is how your guides warn you about things you cannot yet see. Not by sending you a dramatic sign on a billboard, not by giving you a vision, by using the instrument you've always had, your own vibrational body, to communicate what exists at a frequency just beyond your current visible range. Your guides don't speak louder. They speak closer. The reason you've missed it isn't because the signal was weak. It's because you were trained to distrust it. You were taught that feelings without logical explanation are irrational. That hesitation is the ego, not wisdom, that if you can't see a reason to stop, you should keep going. But Bashar says something that reframes all of this completely. He says that your excitement, your genuine body-felt resonant excitement, is the communication of your higher self. And the inverse is equally true. That feeling of flatness, of hollowness, of unease without visible cause, that is also communication. That is your higher self, through your guides, through the field that surrounds you, sending you a frequency-level message about the alignment of what you're moving toward. Your body doesn't lie. Your mind can lie. Your programming can lie. Your logic can construct narratives that serve fear or desire. But your body, when you are quiet enough to listen to it, is reading reality at a level your conscious mind hasn't caught up with yet. Your guides don't speak louder. They speak closer. Now let's complicate this in a way that actually sets you free, because here is where most people get stuck. They understand that the body is a guidance system, and then they spend the next 3 years trying to figure out whether every sensation is guidance or just anxiety. They second-guess their hesitation. They wonder if the uneasy feeling is a warning or just their old patterns of self-sabotage showing up again. And that confusion, that spinning loop, is itself a signal. Let me explain. Bashar draws a distinction that not enough people work with, between the frequency of excitement and the frequency of fear. He says they feel similar in the body. Both produce activation, both produce alertness. But they have completely different textures. Fear constricts, excitement expands. Fear makes the future feel smaller. Excitement makes the future feel alive, even if uncertain. Your guides communicate in expansion, not in the grandiose, over-the-top kind, not necessarily in the kind that makes you want to jump out of your seat, but in that quiet, opening sensation that says, yes, this, here. Think of it like the difference between a key turning smoothly in a lock and a key that catches and grinds. Both keys look similar, both fit in the hole, but one belongs to that door and one doesn't. The one that belongs doesn't require force, it doesn't require convincing. It turns, and something opens. The warnings your guides send feel like a key that won't quite turn. Not dramatic, not a slammed door, just resistance. Just that quality of something not quite fitting, no matter how much you want it to. And here is the deeper teaching that so many people miss. Your guides are not warning you about danger, the way a fire alarm warns you about fire. They are warning you about misalignment, about a version of reality that exists outside your current frequency. They are not saying, this is bad. They are saying, this is not yours, not now, not from here. I remember sitting with this for weeks, this exact distinction, before it stopped being a concept and became something I could actually feel the difference between the unease that says this isn't for you and the unease that says you're scared of how big this could be. They feel different. Once you feel the difference, you cannot unfeel it. And that is when guidance stops being something you look for and becomes something you live in. For me, the shift came when I stopped asking, is this a sign? And started asking, what is my body doing right now? And am I willing to take it seriously? That was the whole practice, so where does that leave you? It leaves you with this. The guidance has always been present. The question was never whether your guides were communicating. The question was whether you were treating your own felt sense as valid data, or as noise to be overridden in service of what you thought you should want. Your guides don't speak louder, they speak closer. Let's bring this all the way home. Because understanding this conceptually is one thing, but you came here because you want to actually feel it. You want to live inside a relationship with your guidance that is real and navigable, and something you trust on a Tuesday morning, not just in a meditation. Here is what Bashar teaches about activating this connection consciously. He says you cannot force communication with your guides. That much you probably already know. But what you can do is create the conditions that make reception possible. And the primary condition is this: stillness before decision, not hours of meditation, not elaborate ritual, just a pause. A moment of deliberate stillness before you respond, decide, or move. In that pause, you drop below the level of mental noise. You drop below the story you've already started constructing about what this means and what you should do. And in that space, what is actually present can be felt. It works like this. Before you send the message, before you say yes to the invitation, before you push the button, stop. Take one breath that is slightly longer than usual, not for spiritual effect, not to perform mindfulness, just to genuinely drop back into your body. And then ask, not out loud, not even in words necessarily, just direct your attention inward and notice, does this expand or contract? Does this feel like a key turning or a key catching? Not what do I think about this? What does my body do with this? This is not overthinking. This is not second-guessing. This is taking 30 seconds to consult the most sophisticated guidance instrument you possess before you proceed. Think of it like checking the GPS before you pull out of the driveway. You don't argue with the GPS. You don't say, I know a better route. You check it, receive the information, and then make your choice uninformed. That is the practical shift, not a massive overhaul of how you live. Just 30 seconds of genuine internal consultation before the moments that matter. Because here is what changes when you start doing this consistently. You stop accumulating regret. You stop arriving at a destination and wondering why your whole body is saying wrong turn. You stop overriding yourself and then looking back at the override with frustration. You start developing a relationship with your guidance that deepens over time, because every time you honor the signal, every time you trust the resonance, you send a message back to your higher self and your guides that says, "I'm listening, keep talking," and they do. Right now, reading this, something in you already knows whether there is a decision you've been ignoring a feeling about. Something in you already knows the door you've been forcing and the door that's been waiting. You don't need to figure it out intellectually. You've already been told. The question is whether you're ready to trust that what you've been feeling is not fear, not projection, not anxiety, but communication. Your guides don't speak louder. They speak closer. You felt it before, that pull, that unease, that quiet sense of something being off or something being right, before you had any reason to believe it. You called it a feeling. You called it intuition. You called it paranoia, or sensitivity, or fear. You filtered it through every story you'd been given about what feelings mean and what they're worth. But here is what Bashar would have you understand. Your guides were never distant. They were never broadcasting from some separate dimension, waiting for you to tune in through special circumstances or rare moments of clarity. They are in immediate proximity to you, always, communicating through the very fabric of your body, your felt sense, your vibrational field, every expansion, every contraction, every moment of inexplicable knowing. It was never noise. It was always signal. What changes now is not the signal. The signal was always there. What changes is that you know what it is. You know how to read it. You know that the key that catches is not a failure. It's a message. You know that the hollow feeling in your chest about something that looks perfect on paper is not your damage. It's your wisdom. You were not failing to receive guidance. You were receiving it perfectly and learning slowly to believe what you were receiving. That's the whole shift. And it was always this close. You were never lost. You were learning to trust what you already knew,